We got David the singer, right? We all know he's under investigation, right? And TMZ came out and said that the body was frozen. So they done told everybody that the body was frozen, and they got a close source that let them know that the body was frozen. And they come out and say that the body wasn't frozen, but they're saying it's frozen, but they saying that the LAPD saying that the body wasn't frozen, but they're saying it was. And they're saying their sources is close to them, telling them, yo, this is what it is. They got the intel, they know what's going on. But they closing in on David. I'm gonna let y'all hear what TMZ say first, and then we gonna hear what Sidebar said about it. Smash that like button, hit that subscribe button.
Part of a story that we broke over the weekend. A story about David, the singer David, and the body that was found in his Tesla, that body of Celeste Rivas. And the part of our story that we broke over the weekend was that that the remains of Celeste were partially frozen when they were found in the Tesla. This was back in early September, first week in September, when they discovered this when David's car had been towed to an LA tow yard. Well, the LAPD captain is saying that the body was not frozen.
So herein lies the issue. We have a very well-connected source connected to the medical examiner, the LA County Medical Examiner, which currently has the body. And that source has doubled, tripled, quadrupled, and sextupled down, actually, now, saying that the body was indeed partially frozen when it was received by law enforcement. So that's kind of interesting, but the medical examiner is just telling a different story, or at least the sources we have, and we have sources in all camps in this, there's a conflict here.
We'd heard that there had been this conflict between LAPD and the medical examiner.
There's been tension for several years, but this is kind of interesting. One of the documents at the LA County Medical Examiner's office has an interesting statement. This has to do with trying to fingerprint Celeste's body. It says the decedent was not live scanned due to waterlogged fingers.
Now, I want to say that TMZ getting that information is kind of odd, right? It's odd. Like, this is an active homicide investigation, right? They're a news outlet. I don't see why somebody at the medical examiner would reveal this information to a source that they know is going to say it to the world when there's an active investigation. Whereas though this stuff here is supposed to be kept tight until they do a thorough investigation. It's like they messing with the investigation at the medical examiner's spot. And we know TMZ probably done gave them some paper. They probably allegedly gave him some money to get information now. And I think that, that's messing with the case. You putting information out there, you might be putting false or truthful information, but you putting information out there while an investigation going on, that's like too much. This is a situation that's serious. And it's all over the headlines, and y'all out there giving information up, that the LAPD don't want to give out yet.
Well, that's kind of interesting.
Right. Why would the fingers
be waterlogged?
Well, certainly if the body had been frozen for quite some time and then is sitting in a bag in this Tesla out in the blazing hot summer sun, Yeah, you would imagine that there's going to be.
So now, when they said that, it made me think that maybe somebody might have been lying to him, because if the body was sitting out in the Tesla in the blazing hot sun, how would it still be frozen? We all know if it's blazing hot outside and you put ice in the trunk, it's going to thaw out. It's not going to preserve in there. So it got me thinking about that.
Some water in that bag.
So there's, you've got to kind of like look at the big picture here. So we told you that even though there has not been a cause or manner of death determined by the medical examiner, and there may not be because of the state of the body, the LAPD is operating under the assumption that this is a homicide and that David is a suspect. And there is an accomplice, they believe, somebody who helped dismember the body. Now, there is a mysterious trip that becomes really important in this case, we're told, that David took to Santa Barbara in the spring of this year, in the middle of the night in a remote area of Santa Barbara County, spent several hours there. We are told the following, that and this is based on sources, that the body wasn't buried, but the strong insinuation that we got was that's where it was dismembered. So what happened to the body between the spring, if this is true, between the spring of this year and September when the body was discovered in the car?
Right. I mean, if this just a theory, I think that it would make sense if they went there just to not have a mess, and that's when they dismembered it, and then it was in a freezer for a long period of time, and then
it almost points to it must have been frozen. And I understand the LAPD captain is disputing this, but our sources insist 100% it was frozen, and that completely makes sense. Partially frozen when the body came to the ME's office.
It also makes sense with the state of decomposition, right? I mean, from spring to when it's discovered in September, when the body is discovered, they say it's in a state of decomposition, but the waterlogging, all that stuff indicates frozen at some point, whether frozen when they actually pull it out or not, because the state of decomposition of a human body from the spring to the summer would be really pronounced. You wouldn't see fingers and things like that, even to live scan in the first place.
Yep.
I don't even want to go as far as saying, yeah, we know it's frozen, because we don't. This is what we're
being told. Right.
We've got sources, you know, in the investigation, and we have told you appropriately, I believe, what the nature of our source is in connection to this.
I think LAPD ain't gonna like that. They gonna be contacting somebody. You know, they trying to make sure they solve this case. And somebody in the medical examiner's office, they're involving themselves in this situation and they messing with the investigation. So I don't think the LAPD gonna like that. And he say that, you know, the LAPD and the medical examiner's office, they at odds already. You know, I think they doing too much.
But I don't know how you put the dots together, connect the dots of spring, say it's April, May, June, July, August. That's 4 months. What happened to the body during those 4 months?
By the way, the 4 warmest months.
Yeah, exactly.
In Southern California.
And it would start to smell. The fact that
the odor was there, though, according to the tow shop.
The odor was there.
No, at the tow shop. At the tow shop, yeah. Right, but I think remember how long the Tesla was parked on the street? I think that it would have started emitting some sort of, I mean, I'm not a scientist, but some sort of smell before it was eventually towed away.
And obviously, the one thing we can't explain is, how does the body end up in that car? Yeah. How does the body end up in the Tesla?
How, I mean, obviously someone placed it there, but we can't, why they would have done it.
It's really dumb.
And the bottom top of that was also a process. It was dismembered. There's a lot of factors that go into complicating this issue a lot, right? There's the potential freezing. There's the parts all over the place. It's a very, very sad story. At the end of the day, some of these you see like what belonging she had, what she was wearing, things like that.
Right.
So, you know, the one thing that I was told by one of the sources is, don't necessarily use logic to try to understand this.
That keeps ringing in my head. I remember when you said that. and it's been ringing my head ever since finding out that the source said that the body was partially frozen. Then that leads me to, why was it placed in this car? And I just kept hearing that in my head, that a lot of this, there's part of this that is not going to make sense.
Yeah, right.
Hi, my name is Brianna Nunley from Orlando, Florida. When I heard him say, this isn't going to make logical sense, that makes a lot of sense to me as like an independent pop culture journalist, because when you hear the way that fans are speculating about this death and this loss for the family, a lot of it goes back to the lyrics, his music videos, and how he makes it very clear in his songs what he did to her. But unfortunately, when we're reporting this in the ethical and appropriate way, we can't say the obvious that everyone is already saying online.
Yeah, there's a difference between what people online are thinking and theorizing and what the actual facts are, or even just the information that we can report. So, two different things. An LAPD cap.
Yeah, TMZ just doing a little too much talking. You know, if you're not for certain and you of this status and you this connected, you need to make sure you for certain about the stuff that you putting out there. It ain't like you just getting started. You know, you got a lot of followers. So it's okay to report on it, right? But when you start saying like details, you got to be accurate. You know, you can't be saying details and then you coming back like, well, this is what my source is saying. Like, hold up. Yeah, this is why, you know, you need proof. You know, you need proof before you start going at it like that, especially when it's talking about a homicide and it's an open investigation that's active right now. Yeah, but they saying things, you know, really speculating, and they're not sure, you know. But now that they've been called out about it, you know, they just pointing the finger at the source. You know, let's see what Sidebar got to say, man. Smash that like button, y'all. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't subscribed yet. See what Sidebar said.
Reporting in the David case right now. Allegations of a new second suspect and macabre details of how the body of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez was allegedly disposed of that will just make you sick. And again, this is the girl whose body was found in a car reportedly registered to the singer. If this is all true, it raises a whole new set of questions about what we can expect next.
Hold up. They said they got a second suspect?
Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber.
They got a second suspect though, huh?
Meeting and thought to yourself, what did we just talk about for the last 30 minutes, hour? I have been there a lot of times, not ashamed to say it, but that can be a thing of the past with this. Quad notepad. Okay? This tiny AI-powered device, it's more than just a recorder. It's like a hands-free AI secretary that you can carry with you every day. So whether it's meetings, interviews, brainstorms, the Notepad doesn't just catch everything. It also identifies roles. Right now, he claims that they spoke with the LAPD and they allegedly said that an arrest is not imminent in this case. And it was also reported that singer David is being considered a suspect. There's been a little bit of back and forth on whether this is strictly a death investigation or officially a homicide investigation. The LAPD hasn't labeled this a homicide investigation per se. And of course, this comes as this 14-year-old girl was found in the trunk of a car allegedly registered to David back on September 8th out in LA. But the back and forth on this has been really, really confusing because the LAPD had come out at one point and said they weren't sure if there was a crime beyond concealment of the body. And we were all waiting for the official LA County Medical Examiner's results and toxicology reports to come in. To be clear, there have been no arrests in connection with Celeste's death. But now let's talk about what just happened. According to TMZ, sources close to the investigation tell them that Celeste's body was frozen, that it had actually been thawed out, that she had been decapitated. that her limbs had been severed and cut into pieces. Look, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I have to say this, okay? I'm sorry I'm mentioning this, but this is the reporting. I hope it's not true. And I will add this, though. If it is true, the ME potentially can't determine a cause of death. Again, this is all according to TMZ. And actually, talking the ME, KTLA reported that Celeste's case number is 2025-14252. And when searching that number on the ME's page online, it had listed the cause of death as deferred pending additional tests. However, now, according to KTLA, that has changed on Friday. When you plug in that case number, all the fields are now empty. So KTLA has speculated whether that means a determination has been made in this case, or whether there has been a security measure been put in place upon official release to the public. And sources apparently...
Definitely. They want to protect the case. You know, it's a lot of people saying different things. So, you know, they was going to put something in to seal the case so that, you know, nobody can go online and just see everything. You know, they got TMZ out here saying different things, people, you know, telling them different things. So of course they was going to put, you know, something in place to make sure that, you know, it's not open to the public while they do an investigation. And we know that the LAPD ain't saying nothing, but this situation, being as though that it was tied to the singer in his vehicle, trust me, they gonna figure something out. And they saying they got a second suspect. Something gonna come about it because of how this was found in his vehicle. And then also they saying that he made a song talking about freezing the body. Like, I don't know how true that is, but they saying that, you know, in his music, he was talking about freezing the body. So, you know, they going to definitely be listening at all his music. They going to be, you know, checking the phone records where it was pinging at, all that. And they going to definitely do a thorough investigation. But being as though that she was connected to him, they got pictures together, they definitely, I think, gonna find somebody to put this on. And most likely it's gonna be him being involved with it.
Telling TMZ, though, that the cause and manner of death could ultimately be listed as undetermined. Now, if that's true, it raises a ton of questions, and it may explain some of the confusing elements of this case. And look, it should also be noted that TMZ is reporting that in the rental property in the Hollywood Hills, which was near where that Tesla was parked on Bluebird Avenue, seemingly abandoned before it was towed away to the tow yard and Celeste's body was found inside. In that rental property where David had apparently been staying, TMZ claims that if you look at photos from inside that house from a few years ago, there is a large KitchenAid refrigerator freezer. And they go into the dimensions and whether it's possible a mutilated body could fit in there. By the way, a search warrant was executed on that property and reportedly items were seized. But to be clear, this is all speculative, okay? This is all speculative. We're trying to put in the dots here. And you have to wonder if this reporting is true, that body was found in a hot car, right? It was reported that that Tesla had been there for weeks, even having been ticketed. So where was the body stored? When was it transferred? And I also have to mention this. TMZ had previously reported, and now is really talking about this, that police may be looking into an alleged trip that David had made to a remote area of Santa Barbara County in the middle of the night months ago in the spring. Spent a couple hours there, apparently. This is a new allegation. TMZ's Harvey Levin saying on his Two Angry Men podcast that he believes, quote, that Santa Barbara trip is the key to this case. Now, a police source told People magazine that while LAPD haven't been able to pinpoint exactly when Celeste died, quote, springtime is the closest we've come to determining the time of her death, not before then. Again, this is unidentified source, no independent verification of that, particularly from the LAPD. Before I go any further, before I go into the next development, let me just say this real quick. Whether this is true or not about what happened to Celeste, this must be incredibly painful for Celeste's family to even hear this theory, to hear this reporting. And I don't want that to get lost in all of this. Yes, there's a large community who is following and invested in what happened to this girl. And while we can speculate and theorize and try to provide more information to law enforcement, let's never forget we are talking about the loss of such a young life under very disturbing circumstances.
Yeah, she did have a family, and I'm sure, you know, like people were saying, they knew she ran away and they reported it, but she lost her life. And that there is way too far gone. So, you know, I know that the people, you know, that knew she was running around doing what she doing, at this point, wish they could have did something to, you know, get her back home. But she had her mind made up. You know, I guess she was like a runaway child, and it was nothing they really could do, I guess. Well, maybe they could have like put her in, you know, a all girls home or something to try to like get her away, but they just let her go. But I know they feeling some type of way because it ended up in her losing her life behind the situation.
But that now leads into this second piece of major news that we need to get into as well. TMZ is now reporting that there is a second person who may be considered a suspect in this investigation, someone who allegedly may have helped in the disposal of Celeste's body. In fact, acclaimed criminal defense attorney Mark Garagos said on his Two Angry Men podcast with Harvey Levin, he claimed that he knew the identity of this person, that authorities told him this person may have been involved, quote, before, during, and after Celeste's death. And Garagos claimed that it was a combination of cell phone data and electronic data from the Tesla, location data from social media, that all leads to this second potential suspect, with Garagos saying he thinks this all means that this person, quote, connected to one of the last times that car was moved. And when we spoke to Steve Fisher, the
authorities is just telling him, like, I know he's an attorney or whatever, but hold up. Like, come on, man. Like, it's like the system is so corrupt and, you know, unorganized. If there's an investigation going on, investigate, get to it. But like we all know, when too many people know the information, false information is going to get spreaded around. You know, you say one thing to one person, you say it to the next. By the time it gets to the end, it's something else said. And it's always been like that.
Private investigator who was hired by the person that owns the rental property that David had lived at, he says he saw video of someone driving that Tesla and provided that information to law enforcement. I say all that now to bring in Mike King, retired police commander, host of Profiling Evil, author of Wolves in Sheep's Clothing. Thank you so much for coming on. First time you and I had a chance to talk about this case. This is a big development. Talk to me about what you make of this reporting that Celeste's body may have been dismembered, decapitated, and frozen, because those are very specific actions that are not so easy to do.
Well, Jesse, great to be with you. And I think there are a couple of things that maybe might help put this into buckets that will make a lot more sense for those who are listening to us today. And that is breaking the, for lack of a better word right now, crime scenes or the event locations down into three kinds of locations. First being that initial contact site where David and Celeste may have come in contact with each other. Was there grooming involved? What led up to that relationship happening? And we're seeing reports going back even as much as April of 2024 of Celeste being reported missing. So when we think about the victimology or who she is, was she ungovernable at some degree? It sounded like she was a really good kid that was really working hard, and she came from a really strong family. We may learn different things that point different directions, and that's not victim blaming. It's just talking about kind of the storyline behind the victim. But we have that initial contact site where these two come together in space and time and somehow become an item and start seeing each other. And there are reports that they were seeing each other, that she was regularly coming over to David's house there in Hollywood Hills. But then we've got wherever this event happened, whether it was an overdose, a suicide, an accident, or she died by natural causes from some goofy event that happened with her body. We don't know the answer there. We're learning.
Now, that is something right there. You know, he could be trying to prepare a story, you know, and make it seem like, you know, she overdosed and something happened before they, I guess, whoever allegedly cut the body up. So they could be trying to like prepare a story to come forth with when it go down, because something gonna go down, but it could be, you know, whereas though they don't know the cause of the death, so they can't actually go that route with saying he did it, but give him, you know, some other charges related to it in that situation. But they definitely had a connection. And, you know, you can see they got pictures together, videos together. They was on live and stuff together. They was doing stuff together. So, you know, they had a connection. But this right here is a messy situation, man. For real.
Learning more, and we will continue to learn more, but that becomes the place where this happened, or maybe where she was murdered. That's the crime scene. And then we've got things that make really good sense to me. It's horrible to talk about, but you talk about the decapitation and the disorganization that appears to be going on in this crime, and all of a sudden it makes sense that we're hearing now that there are frost burns and freezer burns, things that would indicate that that body not only had been dismembered, but that had been frozen. And if it's that refrigerator freezer in the house or a freezer in the garage or some other place, it makes sense if they were so disorganized in either trying to hide her body or hide a crime that they may try to dismember her and freeze her there.
Let me get into that. And just so everyone's clear, the LAPD hasn't confirmed what exactly the relationship between Celeste and David was. There have been unconfirmed reports that the two were in a relationship. There's alleged images and video of them together. Again, we can't say with certainty. But going to the freezer, if you have a body that's recovered in the tow yard that's in a state of thawing, how long did the body have to be frozen for? And I'm sorry to talk in such cavalier, it's just we have to be clinical about this. How long was the body frozen for, and how long could it be out of the freezer if it's still in a state of thawing? Now, I don't even know when the body would have been put in the car, right, for this to happen, but can a body be frozen in such a state that even if you take it out into the heat, into a trunk, it can still be in a state of thawing for quite some time? I mean, do you know that?
Yeah, I'm troubled by that as well. And I wonder if it's some inaccurate reporting or some assumptions that are being made, and then we're kind of dogpiling on the reporting. Right. What seems to be more scientific is that there is evidence that the flesh was freezer burned, that there were marks, and we all understand what that looks like. And again, we've got to keep in mind, this vehicle, if I remember right, was recovered, towed off of the street on September 3rd. She very minutes before that, or hours before, was placed in a frozen state inside of the vehicle. Unless she was somehow preserved in there with ice and other kinds of things, I don't know how she could remain frozen for the 5 days that she sits in the sun baking under a tin roof of a Tesla and still be frozen. So I'm thinking there's probably some inaccuracies there, but we might learn something that really clarifies all of that. But over 5 days, I don't know of anything that would remain frozen for that long without some kind of ice pack or other things to keep it in that condition.
But can the body be in such a state that they don't know what happened to her? You heard me talk the back and forth about the ME. There was.
I definitely, you know, don't see how the body could have been frozen sitting in the car for days. So I that there, you know, was the first thing I thought of. So yeah, I don't see how that could be.
Results apparently haven't come in. There are those who are wondering, okay, well, you know, maybe a security measure is being put in place. Maybe they're trying to prepare the public before they release this information, or is it going to be undetermined? Can the body be in such a state that they do not know if this is a homicide? They do not know if this is something else. Is that a possibility?
So I think there are a couple of things to consider here. Again, is whether we're premature on what we're trying to theorize on. But what's very clear to me is that during the autopsy and all of the testing that will be done, they're going to be able to determine some things that might lead toward homicide. Broken hyoids, you think back to the old days of looking at just those kinds of criminal cases. Or there may be some toxicology that comes back that says, hey, this individual has a drug introduced that is not consistent with self-introduction of drugs or other things. So maybe they will find a way to say, there are toxicology or physical abnormalities that suggest that this individual was suffocated or strangled or had bones broken, the things that are consistent. And they're going to be able to tell the difference between postmortem and before death, whether those injuries occurred. And all of those could point toward things like a homicide case. They may find that there are drugs in her system, and those drugs would be self-administered drugs, or maybe it was an accident that occurred. So all of that, I think, is going to come out in the course of the investigation. But bottom line is it possible that they could walk away from this thing saying, we don't know how she died because of the state of decomposition? Absolutely. But I still hold hope that there's a lot of good evidence there.
But there could be an arrest, even if cause and manner are undetermined, right?
Absolutely. And I'm frustrated by a number of things that we don't seem to be talking about. Number one is if there was grooming or anything on social media or in their communications through digital methods that suggest this child's being groomed, that could be criminal charges from those kinds of things. There could be criminal charges from the desecration of the body. There could be criminal charges from trying to move the investigation in different directions. Or
when we see them together taking the pictures like we see right there, you know something was going on. The whole picture tells you everything. You know, something was going on, and it was more than just conversation.
Or to compel witnesses to do things. So there are a lot of things outside of a homicide charge that still need to be considered in a case like this.
This idea of what happened to her, and you couple this with this idea of this alleged Santa Barbara trip, where there's now a theory that perhaps what happened to her happened in this area, this remote area. We don't know for sure. And then you couple this with the reporting that there could be a second suspect who may have helped with the disposal, allegedly. Does that make sense to you? If we're talking about a body that was in this state, if we take it all as true, decapitated, decomposed, dismembered, frozen, is it seem more likely than not, then this has to be more than one person involved?
I think it all points to some very strong possibilities in that regard. And frankly, I always look at these cases and say, what makes sense? And you think about it, it does make sense if you're a disorganized criminal who didn't plan something, but things fell apart, or even if it's an accident, quite frankly, Jesse, that you might say, holy cow, I can't have this thing appear under my name. And you could have the disfigurement and the dismemberment and the moving things into the fridge. And then what am I going to do with this thing now that I've created this bigger challenge? I've got a body here that I've cut up. It makes perfect sense that somebody might go and start disposing of parts in different locations. We've seen that in a lot of criminal cases, not only as a way to maybe throw investigators off, but to put smaller parts in several locations. The trip to Santa Barbara makes some really good sense from a behavioral perspective. And then, of course, cutting up a body is really hard work from people that I've talked to that went through this, killers themselves. It is a massive amount of work. And then if you have somebody of influence who's saying, hey, I've got all these underlings that I can send to do some of my dirty work, and incidentally, do it during a time period when I'm going to be away on tour. And again, this is all alleged about whether David is involved in this or not. But what a perfect alibi in some people's mind to think, hey, look, I was completely across the countryside when this happened. What they don't realize is it's about the time of the murder, not about the time of the discovery, that the alibis are really strong.
What do you think they may be doing behind the scenes to verify this alleged Santa Barbara trip?
But hopefully if they do have suspect number 2 and they're interviewing them, they're able to put enough pressure on them to have that person step up and say, wait a minute, I didn't sign up for this much. This is what I was asked to do, and point back to maybe some behaviors that led up to that second person being involved. If that second person was involved from the get-go, then of course they're going to be trying to impeach that person's interview and confession or admission with digital evidence and other kinds of pieces of evidence. And we take all that forensic evidence and physical evidence and eyewitness accounts and confessions and admissions, and we start bringing them all together and either use it to collaborate and corroborate what this number 2 person is saying, or to frankly impeach them.
So let me ask you this. You mentioned conversations, right? According to People magazine, there is a police source that has come out and corrected the record and said that David is not cooperating with authorities and hasn't been from the start, that they haven't even interviewed him. Now, we don't know this for sure, but that would be very different than what we previously understood, because his representative reportedly told NBC Los Angeles that David was fully cooperating. And we know he canceled his tour dates. He reportedly hired a high-powered criminal defense attorney, Blair Burke. Both he and Burke, though, have been radio silent throughout this whole investigation by all accounts. If that is true, what are your thoughts on that, Mike?
Well, again, it all seems to make sense, doesn't it? Number one, this is a high-profile individual, probably immediately sought out legal counsel. And if, in fact, this young woman was murdered or died by accident back in the springtime, had plenty of time to start putting a bunch of pieces in place. And, of course, I don't know a defense attorney out there that would say, if they were representing someone like this, go talk to the police and tell them everything you know. They might just say, no, let's see from the law enforcement side of things what they have, and then we'll respond.
How can you reconcile everything that I just mentioned, right? The reports of Santa Barbara trip, alleged second suspect, new details about what happened to Celeste. Again, these are allegations. This is based on reporting. It's not like LAPD has come out with this at first. But assuming for the moment all of this is true, how do we reconcile all of this with what TMZ reported last week, that the LAPD told them an arrest is not imminent? Now, either LAPD is not being forthcoming, or there's some missing gap here. What am I not understanding?
It might boil down to just logistics too, Jess, that the idea is that the law enforcement folks understand that they've got a long uphill trail that they've got to cross with the getting all of the toxicology done on this individual, getting the autopsy completed, getting a cause of death, getting witness statements, collaborating. I guarantee there are probably now hundreds of search warrants that have been issued from a digital perspective on vehicle telematics and cell phones and other things. And they're going to be going through Ring cameras and doorbell cameras and CCTV across the city. There is so much work that needs to be done that I would want to say something like that in order to just let the public know, because the public's going to start demanding, hey, wait, why aren't you doing something? Well, I can just about promise that they are doing a lot right now. And they probably are like a whole batch of ducks sitting on the water that look pretty calm, but their feet are going 100 miles an hour.
I want to go back to the family before we wrap things up. This is devastating details. We don't know if it's for sure. I mentioned that they have to go through this. What do you think, if we even go back to the ME's report, and now there's this apparent change in the file, do you think that law enforcement is communicating details to the family before it's released publicly? Do you think that they have said, listen, we have the ME's report, this is what it is, we're going to release it on Tuesday, we've listed off the website? Do you think that is happening? Should it be happening, particularly in a case like this? Because it would be pretty devastating for this family to learn this information for the first time if it didn't come from law enforcement directly. Although, again, we don't know if this is true. I mean, law enforcement maybe could be speaking to them and saying, this reporting is not true, I can tell you this much. What do you think that communication is?
Well, number one, this is a police department that's built around a whole bunch of professionals that have a lot of experience in these death investigations. And when you're dealing with an unequivocal death, you've got to move carefully. But they also are an agency, the Los Angeles Police Department, that has victim advocacy. They have people who are dealing with the family and trying to take care of that part of allowing them with enough information to know that something's moving forward. But it would be, in my opinion, really an improper move to let the family know anything that's happening in the investigation that could cause problems for the investigation.
I definitely believe they not letting the family know what's going on. You know, they already know. Once you tell the family some things, information is going to get out. So they not letting the family know. And we hear from TMZ that they getting information from somebody that work at the medical examiner's office. So, yeah, I don't think the LAPD saying nothing to nobody. That's going to cost somebody their job, especially when this is like a major case right now.
Down the road, including alerting them to whether they're developing a suspect more strongly in one area or another, or a theory in one area or another. I would hope that when they get to the point of announcing that they have solved this crime or this death, and if in fact there is going to be an arrest, that they would let them know a little bit of time, moments perhaps, before a press release, because you can't control a family who might jump on social media and say, I've been told this, and it could really throw some kinks into your works.
Mike King, thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, so, yeah, I don't think they told the family anything right now. Yeah, TMZ, they just fishing and they getting information and they putting out the information they get. And when I hear that the body was in the trunk for a while, I don't believe the body was frozen, you know. But the body being dismembered, definitely going to be a hard, you know, way for them to find out exactly what happened. You know, hopefully they'll be able to find some information from somebody along the way to see exactly what happened, or some information in the phone, you know, because it was a child that this happened to, and it was a life, period. So we're going to see how this one goes with this situation. SBGB TV, live call-in show. What's popping? Yo, what's popping?
Yo, what's popping? It's Miami. You can hear me?
Yeah, what's good with you, bro?
Man, ain't too much. I think TMZ really just fishing with their info. You know what I'm saying?
That would it sound like.
Yeah, they got what they doing is they using that dude's that attorney. They're using his title as a source of information. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But ain't no way TMZ gonna get information and then leak it to the public. It just don't happen like that. But they can speculate all day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Speculating ain't no problem, but the medical examiner and all them ain't gonna give up no information to possibly hurt the case. Just like how when they gave that info to Wack about Big U getting arrested, and Wack ran to the internet like, Big U gonna get arrested on Wednesday. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They don't play like that. But what I can say is TMZ got a lot of police and medical examiners and ambulance on payroll. You feel what I'm saying? That's how they be knowing all the little stuff about everybody's personal, because they got certain people on the payroll. But I don't think they got information about this case. They know just like we know, like David is involved. You know what I'm saying? It's as clear as day. It's his girl, it's his car, it's his house. You feel me? It's like, come on. If that was anybody else who didn't have his money, they would already locked him up on suspicion. You feel me?
Facts.
But he got enough money to bail out. Like if they say your bail is $2 million, he could give him $2 million. You feel me? So they like, we got to be sure about this one. This ain't just a regular LA case. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And one thing about, you know, them M1 charges is as much as serious as they are, they're not the easiest to prove. You know what I'm saying? And I've heard that from plenty of people. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to really, you know, it may seem like cut and dry, but you're going to have to prove that this individual did it. That's the hard part. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah, just him being, you know, I guess the body being in the car, you know, that isn't sufficient evidence that he did it. It's just saying that she was found in his car. So they want to make sure that they got the I's dotted and T's crossed to make sure that when they bring the case that they got the facts to back it up.
Yeah, they could keep him there. But the thing about it, his history, he's one of them cats. He got a bunch of like tweets or whatever saying that how much he watches gore. You know what gore is? Gore is that type of stuff, cutting up stuff, dismember. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, that crazy stuff.
that crazy stuff to where he's like, now I've been watching it so much, I'm desensitized to it and all this stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And then he referenced one show where they described how if you put a body in the refrigerator or the freezer, they can't tell the source of how the motherfucker died. You hear me? He studied all this. This wasn't him just panicking and doing it. You know, it's after you. It's just like watching a boxing fight. If we watch boxing tonight, by the end of the night, one of us gonna feel like we got hands. You feel me?
Yeah.
That's just how it is. Like, you know what I mean? You feel like whatever it is that you're entertaining, you feel like, you know what, I could do that too. You feel me?
Yeah.
That's how it is. You know what I'm saying? Watching that gore, you like, shit, I might be ready to try me some. You feel me? And he got certain information. Like, wait, if you freeze the body for 2 months, it freezes all the cells in the you know what I'm saying? You can't tell how it is. You feel me? So he did his research and he studied and he acted on it. You know what I'm saying? And
that's deep though, that, you know, it's known out there that he studied that stuff and then he made like a song pertaining to that type of stuff.
He wants to go out as like one of the biggest, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, hey, like he living like it's a comic book. You know what I'm saying? Them comic book people, they're not really living. You feel me?
That's
like these videos.
Stuff.
Huh?
I said that's some deep stuff though, right there though.
You feel me though, DZ? Like these comic books and these GTA, that's not real life. You feel me?
Yeah.
That's why growing up, parents used to be strict on what you watch and what kind of games you play and all that type of stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it's different now. They giving you the tablet and letting you just go with no restrictions.
Just letting you rock. And that's how he met her, was on one of them games. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I just think at the end of all this, they're gonna get him with like some type of accessory. You feel me? I don't think he gonna get the main charge based on how he played it. You know what I'm saying?
That would be deep if, you know, they don't get him on that. But I know they're not charging him, rushing it, because, you know, you get one shot at that. If they bust the gun off and miss on that one and he take it all away and they not right, they don't get a chance to do it again.
Right. It's over with. You know what I'm saying? You get one swing at that.
Yeah.
But I can say this. If he know he did it, being free, knowing you did it on your conscience, your body free, your mind is locked up. You know what I'm saying? Every time that phone ring, every time that doorbell go off, any car, you feel like it's that time. You feel me?
Yeah, I can agree with that. I was going to say that a little earlier too, because I know every day of his life right now is really miserable internally because you're thinking about this. You know, your gut ain't right. I'm sure he's probably not even eating right or nothing.
He can't. He done lost all type of weight probably because mentally you locked up. You're done. You know, physically you out and about, but you know that any second they could pull up. You feel me? So you ain't sleeping right. You're not eating right. Everything thrown off. And here's the thing. These detectives and investigators, they got all day to do this shit. So they letting you, they got you monitored in ways you don't even know, just trying to see if how you slip up. You hear me?
Yeah, they definitely got him under surveillance.
Yeah, and they got all day to do this. They don't got to do it today, tomorrow, next week, the week after. They purposely make you feel like you're not a suspect so you can slip up somewhere, and then they got you. You feel what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
So as much as he's not arrested, he's still not free mentally. You know what I mean? Like, anybody that was innocent would have came forward already and be like, man, listen, I'm sorry this happened. Honestly, truly, like, you know what I mean? Like, something, you know, but it had a lot to do with, you know what I mean, his background and what type of stuff he studies and all that gore and all that type of, you feel me? But my last thing, the big meat stuff. What he was talking about people like White 100. You feel me? Without addressing them, he's talking about them peons that don't get no money, so all they do is comment because it's free. You feel me?
Yes, sir.
That's who he's speaking about. You know what I'm saying? He's speaking about them cats. This dude got out of prison sometime last year. This is his first time speaking. You feel me?
Yeah.
This is his first. He's that not interested in this internet stuff that's going on. He's like, man, I come from where people was getting money on the streets. Only thing you heard was myths about how much money people was getting. You ain't hear people just down talking on people all day. You feel me?
Yeah.
he like, I come from a different era where people like, man, I think he a billionaire. Like, I don't know what he got. This dude had giraffes at his party. He's not used to this down talking. He's like, it's throwing me off a little bit. You feel me?
Yeah, so I definitely agree talking like people like Wack 100.
He talking about Wag all day. He just ain't go address him. Wack's a peon. You feel me?
Yeah.
Wack is nobody to him. You know what I'm saying? You want people like Meech or T Grizzly to address you, but they got somebody for you. Dogface.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Yeah.
They got Dogface for you.
Yeah.
Dogface is representing them, and you can't say nothing to Dogface. You feel me?
Yeah.
And then here's the thing: you talk about you not putting out no more work because it's tampering with evidence. You can't untamper. You already tampered. You feel me? You already done tampered the witness. You can't stop now. You already did it.
It doesn't make no sense for real, because you just put it out there like you had it, fake documents. Now you saying I'm not gonna do it because I'm tampering. Like it doesn't even make sense.
Tampering with a witness. You already did that part. You already labeled him that. That was the tampering. Now people is, that's dangerous, so to say. You know what I'm saying? When you say somebody's, tellings. That could be
Wack gonna look like a fool if T Grizzly sue him.
That's what he wants, because then he want to be able to say somebody's telling. That's his trick bag. He wants to get you to, some type of a report on him. Once he got the report, he gonna say you telling. Well, what did you do with World Star?
Yeah, see, he gonna definitely put a blinder on what he's done, and he's gonna look at it different because it's somebody else. He does that because a lot of times he's doing things that's blatant, but if somebody else do it, it's enhanced in his eyes, and everything he did was dumbed down.
You just told the police Chrisean Rock don't live here, so you giving out where she live and where she don't. The same as Max B, what he did. How she work at what's her name? You feel me?
Yeah.
But that's snitching. But you saying Chrisean Rock don't live here and this and this and this.
And he said that she broke the windows out of the car.
Oh yeah, I'm getting to that.
Yeah.
You went and not only gave the location on her, you reported a crime in front of the police that she committed. But that's not telling. Come on, man, you a snitch. And it was something you played yesterday where you paused it for a second and you were saying something, and the next word Wack was saying was, "Now I'm a rat." You got to clip that and just use that, just that. Okay. It was just him saying, "And I'm a rat." You feel me? Because you paused it to say you know what I'm saying, to get off. But as soon as you press play, the nigga said, "I'm a rat." I said, "Whoa." I had to play it back like, what did he say? But it's because you paused it. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, shit.
Okay.
You got to clip it. I'll try to send you the timestamp. But dude is a rat, man, and he know it. You feel me? It ain't no way around it. We get this dude 1,000 chances. Every chance. We like, man, the next one. You know what I'm saying? This dude is a rat. Dude is a rat. You know what I mean? There ain't no way around it. You feel me? And when people call his bluff and offer him money to prove that they're a rat, he goes missing. You feel me?
Get straight mute.
He don't want to talk about it no more. It's tampering with evidence. It's public information, you said. You feel me?
Yeah. And you got to work.
You got the work, you put it out, but now they want to verify it for $500,000, and you know where to be found. You say you're gonna put it out when you want to. Man, stop it. You know what I'm saying?
All cap.
Yeah, dude, cap, man. But that's my call though, dude.
I appreciate you calling in, bro.
Love.
Yeah, man. It's a crazy situation though. And it's big. That situation with David is big, man. It's major. It's being talked about everywhere. Yeah. For someone to lose their life in that manner, and then the connection be so close to somebody, but at the same time, nobody's arrested, and they're investigating with different people speculating on what happened. Yeah, that's major. Definitely major, man. Smash that like button and hit that subscribe button, and share the live. I appreciate all of y'all that rock with SBGB TV.